Stand by for broadcast.
You're listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations.
Hi, I'm Flight Lieutenant Chris Solly, and welcome to the latest RAF Inside Air podcast. In this episode, we'll meet some of the teams working behind the scenes to ensure that all air HR functions are fit for purpose in 2025 and beyond.
I remember going onto the HR app and it had my wrong service number in, and I kept sending a message because at the time we weren't allowed to go and visit the office to go and discuss things. So it was, send an email and you'll get a response within 5 days, and it wasn't sufficient. That really wasn't. Things have massively improved, I will say that now.
We do like clinics where we visit all the stations we look after. We visit the squadrons once a month or more than that. We have like a digital, like an afternoon of once a week where people can just call in, talk to anyone, and we're all there and we can answer their questions.
And one of the things I really want to explore in the years coming up is how AI technology can help automate our processes, because we can all see how that's developing.
As usual, we'll also reheat a few stories which could have slipped under your radar, and we'll be finding out who's under the hat this week with AS1 Ben Russell.
What's the best thing about your job?
I am in a fuels team, and the fact is we can deploy anywhere, anytime is probably the best thing about my job.
From simple admin tasks through pay and onto the more in-depth issues, we all rely on the support of the air HR teams to help things run smoothly and to allow us to get on with our jobs. Squadron leader Peter Lisney has met with some of them to find out how they're moving systems and procedures along to help keep RAF personnel ready to fly and fight.
Well, thank you for joining us on Inside Air. I'm with Group Captain Neil from Air Command. I'm with Flight Sergeant Angie from 90SU up in Yorkshire. And AS1 Laura at Marham, right in the sticks. Good stuff. So what I'd like you to do is tell us very briefly what your role is and how you fit in, why this is important to you. And if we start off with you, Flight Sergeant Angie.
Yeah, no problem, sir. So I look after 90SU, as you say, and I look after a flight of 30 people. So it's definitely important that we have the right level of HR support for us. I have a range of AS1s, and I also looking after a new flight lieutenant, as my role should be. So I work in the communications world. So having that level of communication through HR is absolutely vital, because I could have AS1s who are deploying or something and they need an answer. The roles that I've looked after when personnel have the high readiness, so they are going quickly. So we need answers sometimes very, very quickly. That's where the lacking is. But yeah, I've got a flight of 31 people, so it's quite a challenge, and it's good as a manager's perspective as well.
Brilliant, Angie. And 90 Signals Unit, you're out the door all the time. Wherever in the world the RAF goes, you go too. Okay, AS1 Laura, what's your job?
Well, I'm on the front lines. We do every single query. At Marham, we look after everyone at Honington, Wittering and Marham. That's a lot of people. And obviously we're all severely understaffed. And so we try our best. But yeah. Okay,
yeah. If you want to upset anyone in the Royal Air Force, mess up their pay.
Yeah.
So that's why this topic is so important. Can I just check? Did you join the Air Force when we were still in PSFs, personal services flights?
So I tried to join up when it was like that, but then obviously COVID, and then I ended up coming in way after. So all I've ever known is the HR on. So
okay, so everything looks golden. Brilliant, thank you. Right, Group Captain Neil, tell us your job and why it's not your fault.
Hey, thanks, Pete. So I head up an organisation called Station Shared Services, and the Human Resources team sits in there. It's actually one of 4 functions that we're delivering through that. And all of them, there's a basic premise behind it, which is we're modernising and we're looking to deliver all those services in a much more 21st century style. And at the centre of that, we're using digital tools, automating processes to be able to deliver all those services more productively. So HR was the first of those, in all honesty. Had a bit of a rocky start. It was a pretty adventurous change program to deliver, and as I think you touched on, Pete, there, if there's one thing that's going to touch people's emotions, it's pay, allowances, etc. But I think at the core of it, the model is actually really, really, really good. We are now able to take a much more central view of where the pressure points are on HR, and probably more importantly, people like Laura are now able to deliver HR not only for those customers, those users on their own station, but users across the whole of the Air Force. And that's a real key strength for me in the model. We talk about veer and haul, and Laura and her colleagues are doing that every day. They can see through data analytics that we now have where the busy units are, and we can concentrate our efforts to make sure everyone's getting the best service.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, sir. So where we're at today in Royal Air Force parlance, are we at full operating capability, or are we at IOC initial, or where are we at with HR?
So they are terms I tend to err away from, and one of the reasons is we want to and we will strive to keep improving the service continually. So we don't necessarily have a concept of this is the end state, this is the full operating capability, because we want to keep harnessing technology to get better and better. But Angie and Laura have already, I think, touched on some of the challenges we're aware of in the Air Force at the moment. One of the key ones is probably not enough people. There aren't the number of people we'd wish at the moment. So certainly one area where we're not at the operating capability we would wish to be is with the number of HR clerks we have, and that's why it's doubly important to me that we are providing them the best tools and the best processes so they can be as productive as possible.
Good stuff. I mean, I think what we'll do is just wind back the clock a few years. Let's go back 10, 15 years, and I'm going to come to you, Angie. When you were posted onto a new station, can you tell me, when did you go to station headquarters and go to PSF for help? What were the things that you needed?
You go there more or less straight away because you go and get your arrivals check, which is a thing that you always got. You went along, you were given your arrivals check that you had to go around every section that was relevant to you. You were told like you were given an arrivals pack, I should say, and it was good, and you had that interaction with a person on the desk. And so you were giving your pack, and then once you'd gone around all the other sections to get familiarised with the station, you'd go back to HR then, or PSF as it was back then, and you would go back and get it all signed off from them to say that yes, you've arrived, and that they were content that you've done all the processes. So it was that interaction with the rivals. You knew you were. It's difficult. I would say that
you build in relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. You were getting that. You were felt as though you were in that. You were being cared for. You arrived. You were being cared for. People knew you. You got to see people. You actually saw people. Interaction. You were. I mean, I dread to think what it's like for the new AS1s that are coming in now. But you've got that of care. If that's what I'm trying to get at, you had that care.
Chances were you promoted, so a few weeks later you'd be back because your pay slip would be wrong.
Yeah.
And then your leave hadn't carried over, so you're back again.
Yes. That was it. You went in, the desks were all laid out with initials above, so that if your last name was P, as mine is, I'd go and sit down and at the P desk if they were free. And it was nice. You had that, and then you built a rapport up with people.
Okay. So it was good. Did it always work? Were you always happy?
Not always, but you can say that about any of us in any of our trade, in all fairness, but not always. There was always, they couldn't help you there and then. They weren't instant. They didn't always instantly know the answers, so you would have to go back. Granted, as you say, the pay, absolutely the key thing, and leave is a major thing for people. So yes, you would. You don't always. You could say that about anything, can't you? Really, you don't always get the answer straight away. You just go back, and you did.
Cool. Group Captain Neil, I'm going to come back to you here. Why did it need to change?
Yeah, I mean, I think it needed to change because we needed to jump into the 21st century. That process you described, that arrival on the station with a big pile of paper forms that somebody needed to walk around their station. In my mind, that's just not a modern way of doing business. And when we reflect on how we interact with organisations in our personal lives now, for instance, I don't think I've been in a branch of my bank for well over 5 years. The world has moved on, and we need to move on with it. But you touched on an issue there that is really important. The people we're supporting, the end users, they do need to still know that human touch is there and that support is there for them when they need it. So while we built digital solutions and the first point of call with HR is through a digital app, what we continue to develop are the human interactions and their availability behind that. So we have got methods when people need to, they can speak to an HR clerk on the phone, and they can speak to them face to face over a Teams call very rapidly when the situation calls for it. We're also pushing out, and Laura may be able to talk to this, getting out onto the units, onto the flying squadrons, particularly when they're preparing to deploy, so that they do have the clerks there face to face to walk them through that process. So it's a bit of a blended model, but I do think up front we're a modern Air Force and we need to harness technology, so that digital front door is the right way to go.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to come across to you, Laura. Flight Sergeant Angie talked about relationships there. You're seeing the same people. Have you been able to develop relationships with some of your customers?
Oh, definitely. I mean, before we got rid of Skype, I had all these people adding me as contacts. No, we, like the group captain said, we've really made an effort to give back that face-to-face, that care. We do like clinics where we visit all stations we look after. We visit the squadrons once a month or more than that. We have like a digital, like an afternoon of once a week where people can just call in, talk to anyone, and we're all there and we can answer their questions. And what's better with us being kind of regionalised to go alongside that, where you'd have to go back and they didn't have your answer, because we have such like a vast, everyone's got their SMEs and everything. We have that answer there and we can answer it really quickly now. And it means when they're calling up, we can give them the answer they want and they go away and they've had their answer. But yeah, they definitely love the fact that we're visiting them, like the squadrons, when they're due to go away, and we're mass prepping them all in an afternoon or a few afternoons. Yeah, it's definitely made a difference. The response we've had back is really good. In
this self-serve system that we have now, what happens when squadrons deploy overseas and they're not necessarily going to be taking their ModNet laptops with them? What's the solution on deployment?
Well, it's like the old-fashioned kind of docs check. We're face-to-face. We're making sure they've prepped everything. We have everything ready, like a whole pack-up, so that they don't need to worry about anything while they're away. They have the comms. They have someone. They still have like a squadron clerk, as you will, like on the ship or on wherever they're in theatre, to assist them to be able to relate back to us if there is a problem.
So you're still deploying a clerk out wherever they may be going in the world that they can lean into if things have gone wrong with pay or whatever?
Yeah, there's very rarely someone not there to help them.
Okay. So it hasn't been a smooth journey. And I don't think there's anyone in the Air Force that would disagree with that. Can you tell us what went wrong or what didn't quite go right in the early days of this transition to HR regionalisation?
Yeah, so I think we've learned some really key lessons, and I spoke earlier. It was not the best managed change program, Pete, but the advantage of learning those lessons is we're now applying them to the other services we're bringing into the Station Shared Services organisation. So I think, by my mind, and I wasn't in the change programme at the time, but I saw it very much at the station level because I was a station commander at the time. It was probably a bit too adventurous, and the team just tried to deliver it maybe a bit too quickly. It was a bit of a big bang delivery. So on one particular Monday, we transitioned immediately from having the legacy personal support flights, etc., onto the new HR model. So what we've learned from that, obviously, is that it's much better to iteratively deliver these programs, and with our other shared services, we are working through them station by station, and we're taking review points, and we're seeing how the model is bedding in, and then we're able to check and adjust as appropriate. And I think a great example would be another of my shared services, the Air Cyber Services Centre, that delivers all the computers and communications across all our air bases in the UK, and they stepped through that iterative process, and I think that almost went as smoothly as a lot of people didn't really notice the change program happening, and it's now mature and it's in place and it's working. So lessons learned. It's about that iterative process and learning as we go along.
So, just from a personal perspective, as a senior officer, where you previously might have asked for a clerk to support you in your personal admin, did you have to do things yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So
you notice how delicately I asked that.
The HR front end is the same for everybody, and everybody in the Air Force,
even for the chief.
Even for the chief, yeah.
Okay, leading by example. Interesting. Good. What has been the provision for that 1/10 of the Royal Air Force cohort, the reserves, because they have a different sort of life, juggling a day job alongside their part-time volunteer reserve service? Yeah,
so it's a really good question to ask right now, because we're looking at that question this year. So AirHR as delivered is for the regular Air Force at the moment, and it's for those that live and work on our air bases in the UK. We are very keen to bring the reserve component into that. So one of my wing commanders right now has that work strand and is working with our Directorate of Reserves and with the other stakeholders in Air to look at how we now bring the reserve component, and particularly that volunteer reserve component, into the same interfaces. So you might be aware, Pete, some of the HR functions that go with the reserve are unique to the reserve. They're not ones the regulars have. So we now need to work through that process, but that's what we're doing. And it's probably worth, that's a good segue into me saying, when we do digitize these processes, it's not just a case of taking the existing process, put it on a digital form, and off we go. We go through a discovery phase where the whole process itself is unpacked to make sure it's as efficient as possible, because there's no point in taking a 20th century process and just putting it on a digital form. If we digitize and look at the process together, then the end result is much more efficient.
Okay, so that means you're going to go out and visit squadrons and see how they do things on a weekend. Is that the plan?
That is exactly what is happening right now.
That's really good to hear. Going back to the struggles of 2 years ago, as a commander, what lessons were learned in terms of how things might be done differently in other projects, in other change programs? What can we learn as an Air Force from the experience of AirHR?
Yeah, so one of the things I talked about previously was the iterative delivery. I think another one, and I have mentioned this, is the Big Bang change, Pete. So probably definitely one of the weaknesses in retrospect in how HR was delivered is it is more efficient. It requires fewer people to deliver it, but what we allowed to happen was the transition to those fewer people too quickly. So one of the other big differences about how we are delivering my other station shared services is we get the processes in place, we get the new organisation in place, we get the digital and other forms of delivery in place, but we don't reduce the number of people delivering it till all that is bedded in and that we know it's working properly, and then we can slowly bring the number of operators down to what we think the end state is. So with HR, those operators left effectively on day one. We are not doing that with any of my other station shared services.
Okay, that's going to be a bit of a challenge, just to get boring here from a bean counting perspective, to persuade someone who holds the budget to still pay for someone that's not doing the whole job that they were previously doing. Isn't that hard?
I think we've been supported in that now without those who do our overall workforce numbers for the Air Force. You know, they are keen that we realise efficiencies where we can, but they understand because they saw the HR journey, so they know why we need to do it in a different way with our other station shared services, and we're supported from them in that.
Good. All right, thanks, Laura. You're relatively new to the Royal Air Force. Can you tell us why you decided to join the HR team in the Air Force, and how those expectations were met or missed, and how is it going now?
I probably, like most people, when I thought I'd join the Air Force, I didn't think I'd join HR. But
you were going to be a pilot, were you?
Not quite. But obviously when you go to the AFCO, it was that was an option, and I looked into it, and I'm really looking forward to some of the jobs I'll get to do once I progress in a few years. So this isn't ideally where I probably would have wanted to be, but I'm probably different to quite a lot of people. I do enjoy it. It's so busy, and I love being busy, which it helps. Like, I learned so much from this new model. Yeah, I'm in an office, and I don't really face-to-face talk to a lot of people, which is why I'm always like signing up for the clinics, and I'm trying to get out there, and I'm calling people a lot just to let them know that, like, we're here, we're trying to help them. And that's what I kind of wanted. I wanted to be face-to-face, I wanted to be more involved. So yeah, that is a bit hard, but I'll get there.
Where's the reward? What is it that really makes you happy when you go home at night and think, oh, that was a good day?
When I fix someone's pay.
When you fix someone, we always come back to pay, don't we?
Yeah. When someone's trying to bring me a box of chocolates for fixing their pay.
So you've still got some human interaction.
Definitely. We still have people coming in. We like, the office is open for people. If they really do need us, they are welcome to come and see us, and they do. And they have a little sit. We get them a cup of tea like the old days, and we go through it, and we make sure it's all resolved before they leave, because obviously it can be very stressful if something is wrong with your pay, and we want to make sure that it's sorted for people, and that they know that we're here trying to help.
I was going to say, I think, Laura's hitting on a real key point there for me, Pete. The Royal Air Force exists to fly and fight. That's its purpose as an armed force. But absolutely critical to that is the people. All armed forces are about the people. It doesn't matter how great our aircraft are. Without the people to operate them and to enable them, then we wouldn't have an Air Force. So we often talk about the moral component, and that's about ethically looking after our people, and Air HR is right at the hub of that. So it's great to hear Laura talking about that, because it's really important to me that everybody that works in Air HR understands and enjoys and can see the purpose of what they're doing, and it absolutely is. Without them, we wouldn't be putting ultimately pilots into the aircraft to go and fly and fight. So everything we do is core to the Air Force's output.
Yeah, one big team. Angie, going to come to you. As the customer, as the person relying on Laura and her colleagues to keep you in the fight, how has it gone for you over the last couple of years?
Well, in all honesty, I think the initial, as Group Captain said, that was a real challenge for us. It was around, I got posted back into Lehman around that time, and I remember going onto the HR app, and it had my wrong service number in, and I kept sending a message, because at the time we weren't allowed to go and visit the office to go and discuss things. So it was, send an email and you'll get a response within 5 days. And it wasn't sufficient. That really wasn't. Things have massively improved, I will say that now. And, You can go in, as Laura said, you can go in and have face-to-face chats with people, which has helped, definitely. When I deployed last year, there was a lot of questions because of my FMed, and so I was in and out, and they were doing the docs checks, and they helped me book in the courses. So that element is back, which is fantastic. But we are, we are a modern Air Force. We are keeping with the times, and the way that it's gone digitally, I think, has been really good as well. So look, you move and track. It puts the onus on the individual, which really it should be as well, because when it's, for instance, myself at the moment, I'm away at a horse show. I'm in a horse box. That's why it looks a bit odd behind me, but it really is. You do your own move and track, which is fantastic. You're keeping on top of it. Then that it's your responsibility. People are, you see it across. I've got a 24-year-old daughter. It's an instant world. People want things now, and having that digital footprint that we have in the HR is actually a really good thing. The way it's evolved into that has been a real benefit for the service person. And Laura, hopefully, I've not seen it at Lehman yet, but they don't seem to come out to and do visits, so it's something that I might approach with some of the HR friends that I've got. The reward that they're getting, I run the Saddle Club at Lehman, and I've got a couple of HR girls that want to come and do lessons, and they're struggling to get out because of their workload. And that's, to get them, as the group says, a reward for all the hard work that you guys do, because it can't be easy. But I have seen, sorry, I've gone in a big circle, but I have seen a huge improvement since HR5 initially started. HR grouping came in to now. Yes, there's going to be tweaks on every side of it, but it seems to be working really well. I'm able to do line manager interviews for my guys that are deploying online. It is definitely improved. I would say it's in a good place. I would say now. I'm not saying that because I'm on a call with the group captain. I'm being honest. I think it's in a much better place than when it first came out. Absolutely.
Well, look, here's a real key. How does it compare to 10 years ago?
I think now it's much better. Now that all those tweaks have been, most of the tweaks have been ironed out. Now that the door is open, you can go in and speak to somebody. I think it's a lot better to what 10 years ago with the digital footprint, because we do have to move with the times. But there is elements that could always do with a tweak. I'm not HR specialist, I'm comm specialist, so I couldn't really say what the tweaks would be. But I think the thing that Laura said about going around the units, 90SU used to have their own dedicated admin personnel, and that was taken away from us. That's something that we did feel, because there are so many people out the door. But it is improved compared to 10 years ago. Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of positive things that have come out from the way it is now.
Yeah, I think that's really good for me to hear from Angie there. And I think, clearly, not only am I the commander here, but I've been a user of AirHR for well over 20 years in its various forms, and I generally feel the same. If I was asked to go back to the point where I had to take a paper form and get it across to station headquarters to get something actioned, I think I'd reflect that would be a retrograde step. Whereas what I can do right now with the hub that we've built is take my own personal phone, log into my account, and action it at time and place of my convenience, which is great. But as I said earlier, we are keen that we don't rest on any laurels, and we want to keep improving the system. And one of the things I really want to explore in the years coming up is how AI technology can help automate our processes, because we can all see how that's developing rapidly in the technological world, and I really want to explore how we could harness that to take on the more mundane, the more repetitive, the simple tasks that the HR clerks are dealing with today, so that we can release their a human interaction for the really important, the really crunchy tasks, and those that absolutely need a human touch. So absolutely the intent is to keep improving the service for both ends, for the end user and for the operators, for the HR clerks.
And what about using personal handheld devices, an iPhone? What can people do from the comfort of their armchair with their phone?
Yep. So they just need an account on the Defence Gateway, which is available from the internet on your personal device, and they can get into the HR hub, and they can use each of our flows in there. So everything up to and including, as Angie was just discussing, their pre-deployment and their post-deployment flows. They can what we call move and track, which is where they're registering where their duty station is when they're detached or they go away somewhere. They could do all range of functions, and we're keen to keep increasing the flows within there so that all the pay and allowances and movements functions that we do are centred in that HR hub.
What does the Air HR do for the agility of the Royal Air Force, where we might deploy, agile combat employment? We might send fuelers, refuelers, drivers all over the shop in small pockets. How does it compare now to previously?
Yeah, I'd think it's leaps and bounds ahead, and I'd be interested to know what Laura and Angie think of that. But that fact that you can interact through your personal device, don't need to be on some kind of MOD device, absolutely plays to the agility of the Air Force, because we're in a world now that is enabled by Wi-Fi and 4G and the rest, which means pretty much wherever you are, certainly in the UK, you're able to access the HR function and do what you need. So when those small teams might be moving around very, very quickly to new locations, they're able to register in their device where they've moved to, and we can track them through that and also do the other functions for them. I think a really good question for Angie, because I know that 90 Signals unit's one of the most agile units in the Air Force. I'd be really interested in her perspective.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, sir. One thing that did just pop into my head then when we were talking about that was, so one of my colleagues has gone away on operations and is not allowed to take his PED with him. So that's when having the HR person is absolutely key. Or you go to locations where you're not allowed your own PED. That's difficult then to be able to access all these online things and access your My HR. So having a clerk in the location is absolutely key to, you need that human interaction at those times. But most of the time, you absolutely agree, you can access it at any time. You're at home on the sofa, you can access it at any time to be able to say, oh, I know what my pay is going to be this month. But yes, going on deployment, I suppose it all depends on where you're going and what the PED policy is, really.
And if I could jump in on that, yeah, there's always going to be those locations where we can't have our personal devices, and that's where we do deploy HR clerks forward and do an all range of what we call A1 functions. So that extends beyond HR. It's about your real life support, etc. And they have the systems to reach back and support the people they're looking after overseas or at that deployed location. But interestingly, I'll touch on the current deployment that we have from Marham that I know Laura's been dealing with our squadrons away on the aircraft carrier. We found that footprint forward, in this case on the ship on HMS Prince of Wales, we've been able to reduce the number of HR personnel required there because the systems are interacting with are just that bit more efficient than what we had before.
Okay, that's good. That means more people in warfighting roles per se rather than supporting at the back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a real key point in what we're doing here, Pete. Station shared services is not about finding savings measures, saving money, saving people, but what it is about is taking our operators and making them as absolutely productive as they can be, so that they enable those fighting elements, those war fighting elements of the Royal Air Force, and make sure the Royal Air Force can absolutely optimise its delivery, its ability to fly and fight.
Okay, let's come back to you, Laura. The Air HR experience today. So you've got colleagues, you've lived through it yourself, the let's say the ups and the downs, more of the downs in the last few years, but now it seems that very much the trajectory is upwards. What is morale like in your team?
I think we try really hard to like boost the morale in our office, because as you can imagine, we're not finishing early on a Friday. We've got a high workload, but we've got things in place to highlight anything that's major, to be able to get people off as soon as possible to enjoy their weekend. You know, with the office, like the execs try really hard to put that reward kind of system in place, so it's not just a constant slog all the time. It is rewarding them for working really hard. That's made a massive difference. You know, everyone's productivity has increased, and we've got a really good support system with like JNCOs, SNCOs. If people are really struggling with the workload, it's adjusted. You know, we're not letting people drown. And I think we have a really, really good office at Marham.
Good. So lots of smiles and positivity then.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, something else that occurs to me is that this might apply to you, Angie, I don't know, but certainly on flying squadrons where you've got engineering teams and they're wearing the coveralls. And if they had to go to station headquarters to visit the personnel services flight for a bit of HR support, they'd have to change out of their coveralls, put their blues on, cycle a mile across the airfield to go to station headquarters, and then find that the person they needed to see has gone on lunch or something. What is this doing for you? How's the picture now? Morale as far as Laura and her colleagues are concerned?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a huge improvement. Being married to a guy who has to do with exactly that is such an improvement for their time and life, because that's it. They're getting changed, and it all adds on time. You can't just pop in and say, you know, across the station. It's that. You've got to factor all that in, and so people like supervisors, where are you going now? You know, well, I've got to go to HR, I've got to get changed, and all the rest of it. So yes, it's a huge improvement to be able to do all these things now on digitally. So yeah, I think it's very good to be able to have that. But having that, being able to do the face-to-face is, if you wanted to have a private conversation, just book an appointment. That's key as well, being able to do that.
Yeah, and the system isn't offshored, is it? It's still our people locally, or within reasonable distance. Just to we're kind of wrapping things up now, but I'm just going to come back to you, sir. How did you feel when you posted into your current role? Was it a job you wanted, and how has that changed, if at all?
Absolutely. So I was really excited when I learned that I'd been selected for the role, and the main reason for that is I see what we're doing in HR and in the other station shared services as a probably once in a generation chance to modernise how the Royal Air Force works, to be part of how we take that forward and make it a more optimised and more effective Air Force, and to enable it to become more effective in how it can deliver air power. And I don't think those opportunities come round too often. Like any job, it's come with its challenges, and we've touched on some of those today, and we do need to get more people into the HR teams. Laura's touched on there, it's hard work, but I hope for all the teams it's really satisfying work. They can see the purpose of what they're doing, and the fact they're enabling the Air Force to be able to deliver air power. What I also hope is they'll share that excitement that I've got, and that we can all play a part in modernising the Royal Air Force, especially modernising how we deliver the enabling functions, and then we can take it forward further and further into the 21st century.
Good stuff. Just to finish off, I'm going to ask, Angie, from your perspective, what do you have to say to Laura and her colleagues, or her oppos in Lehman? What message do you have for the HR teams?
In all honesty, I'm going to say thank you, because as the group captain said, we're very busy, and Laura said very busy all the time, and they have to deal with all sorts of queries at any time during the day, and they are, for want of a better word, fragged, to be honest. Like, the demand on people is the same as it was when I joined up 30 years ago, but we've got such a huge reduction in personnel. So it's just a huge thank you to the guys for looking after us, really. With all the challenges that they've faced, it's just a thank you. Really, really appreciate it.
That's really nice to hear.
Laura, suggestions to your customers, the people that you work with, anything you'd like to say to them?
Just bear with us with our 5 to 10 day response time. We will get to you.
So, Laura, with your experience in people operations coming into HR, it might have not been what you had expected when you first signed on the dotted line. What has the experience been like? Is it a good job to do? Would you recommend it to your friends?
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. And there's so many opportunities. You know, you're not just in an email kind of call centre. There's CIPDs on offer. There's qualifications you can do. You can use your learning credits to expand your professional knowledge. It can really aid you going forwards into so many different jobs. You know, there's embassy work out there. That's something I'm really excited to get into, to go overseas. I definitely recommend it. They've got like road shows out in the minute. We're kind of trying to come to you and encourage people to join up and join our profession, because it's so key. It's customer service, and that can relate to anything in the world. You know, you can use that going forward in any single job. So it's very important to learn.
Cool. Okay. And what about the stuff outside of work, sport, in adventurous training? Does that appeal to you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm really into golf, and I'm able to go out the office, you know, once a week, for inter-services as well, and just get out there and explore different sides of the Air Force. You know, it's not all about work. You have all the opportunities on offer there, which definitely.
So you're paid to play golf, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, yeah. Who doesn't want to do that?
I think a lot of people. Yeah.
Not every day.
Yeah, the boss is on the call. Watch out. Good. Other things that we've talked a lot about, the pay side of things, but what are the other parts, the services that Air HR brings, sir?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Pete, because the other teams we haven't spoken as much about are what we call our personal support teams and our service discipline teams that also sit in the Air HR organisations. You know, and they're intrinsically important to how the Air Force works. The personal support teams are delivering that welfare when people get in situations that are challenging, and that's something we utterly pride ourselves in the Royal Air Force is the care and attention we will give people. That duty of care when times are hard is really important. Obviously, the service discipline side is maybe something in the ideal world you wouldn't have to deliver, but people's behaviour is not always spot on. So again, that's a really important function that we deliver to administrate that and make sure those behaviour issues or whatever it is are dealt with fairly, equitably, and in a timely fashion. And both those functions are interested in the Air HR model because right up front it was decided they're intrinsically face-to-face functions. So where Laura doing pay, movements, allowances is working in a more remote fashion, our service discipline and our personal support teams are right there on the station interacting face to face, and that's important. And that's a role people will move from the HR ops side where Laura is into discipline or personal support as they go through their careers. But behind that, while it's face-to-face, we are still developing the tools we give those teams to do their job. So they are also benefiting from digitization, from automation, and being able to work more productively. So face-to-face, we're all about modernizing those functions.
We've got a really good opportunity here, sir, to ask the customer, Angie, from your perspective, how's that going?
Really well, to be honest. So as I mentioned before, the SD side of it and the PS side of it has been absolutely invaluable. As a line manager, I've faced all sorts of issues and questions, and I can send an email off straight away and say, can I come and see you and have a chat? And the door is more or less open straight away for me. It's an invaluable tool for line managers especially. And they deal with so many diverse things that are happening as well. So if they can't answer the question for you, they will be able to guide you to a place where you can get the answers. So invaluable, absolutely invaluable there.
So I think Angie's a happy customer.
That's great to hear. That's absolutely what we want. You know, the three functions we deliver in HR come together. I spoke earlier about the moral component. It's absolutely vital that we deliver those three functions to make sure we've got the best workforce across the Air Force we can have. So great to hear that feedback.
Final word, Group Captain Neil, what do you have to say to the customers that have to use the system, and really importantly to your team that do the implementation? What's your message to these folks?
My overriding message is we're all the same team. So what's really important to us is we understand the feedback from those end users, from the customers. So we need to understand how Air HR in this case is to interact with, so that we can learn from that and continue to make it more effective for the end user. That's what we're all about. At the end of the day, we want to see the Royal Air Force's aircraft get in the air and go and deliver what they need to. So please keep feeding back, and our commitment to everyone in the Air Force is we will continue to improve the service.
Well, Group Captain Neil, Flight Sergeant Angie, AS1 Laura, thank you very much for being on Inside Air and telling your story.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm AS1 Emma Kerwin, and this is Reheat, where we take a look back at some of the RAF stories you might have missed. After nearly 2 decades in the skies, the RAF's Reaper remotely piloted air system has flown its final mission. Since 2007, it's clocked over 173,000 flying hours. That's equivalent to travelling to the moon and back more than 50 times. It supported UK forces in Afghanistan and remains on coalition combat operations during Op Shader. Air Chief Marshal Harv Smith called Reaper the backbone of RAF operations in the Middle East and praised the skilled personnel behind it. Now, the Protector takes over, offering longer range and advanced sensors. Over at RAF Waddington, the Duke of Edinburgh Honorary Air Commodore there was welcomed to commemorate the retirement of the Reaper. The RAF has teamed up with the French Air and Space Force for Exercise Volfa, France's key multinational training event. Held in southwest France, the exercise focuses on joint operations like air-to-air combat and close air support in a high-threat setting. Squadron leader Luke Jules says the exercise boosts training with allies and strengthens ties across NATO. The Atlas successfully landed on the remote Arctic island of Jan Mayen, delivering equipment and demonstrating NATO's readiness in the High North to highlight the RAF's ability to project air power into severe environments. And the Princess of Wales made her first visit to RAF Coningsby. She toured the Quick Reaction Alert facility, meeting personnel who protect UK skies, took a flight in the Typhoon simulator, and spent time with station staff to get a closer look at life on the base. Her Royal Highness is Royal Honorary Air Commodore of the base. That was Reheat for Inside Air.
Thanks, Emma. And now it's time to find out who's under the hat with Ben.
I'm AS1 Ben Russell, and this is Under the Hat, where we get to know an aviator in less than a minute. Name you're known by.
I am Flight Lieutenant Brandon Fairbrother, and I'm just known as Brandon.
What's your profession?
My profession is logistics, and I am based at RAF Wittering.
What's the best thing about your job?
I am in a fuels team, and the fact is we can deploy anywhere, anytime is probably the best thing about my job.
Hardest part of your job?
Making sure that we are compliant all the time, and also being able to support everyone who requires our help.
Best location you've served?
Best location I have served was probably RAF Wittering, because I feel like I've got a major purpose to support the Royal Air Force.
What bit of luxury kit do you never deploy without?
Bit of luxury for me would be headphones, just so I can take myself away and have my own personal space.
And what's your proudest moment in the RAF?
For me, was actually internally commissioned from the ranks into logistics branch.
That's all for this episode of Inside Air. Please give us a review, subscribe via your favourite podcast app, and then join us again soon.
You've been listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations. If you're serving in the RAF and have a story for us, please speak to your unit media and communications officer. Inside Air is written and produced for the Royal Air Force by RAF Media Reserves.